Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Darren Ganji here with my good buddy
Sean Cole.
And today we're here to take our first look at Reiza Studios' Formula Truck Simulator. And if you're not familiar with Reiza Studios, they've been around for quite a long time in one form or another, but most recently as Reiza Studios, making games like Game Stock Car, and they did the Formula Armoroli car, and now they've got Formula Truck. And before that, they were doing mods for R Factor.
Absolutely. Renato Simeone was sort of the head man in charge, and this goes years back, and they've made some of the best mods of all time for R Factor.
For sure.
And in this case, he's also teamed up with Niels Husenveld, who's also a physics guru. Some other names from the modding community who've also been joined part of this team, making it one of the superstar teams for the R Factor world.
Yeah, that's right. Alex Sawzuk, who's a track guru, is also part of that team. And then Fernando Oliveira does some programming and system development, along with some other great names. We can go on for a half an hour just naming all the team.
Right.
If you're not familiar with what this title is for, it's for the PC, and it's based on the ISI game engine, or G-Motor engine, R Factor game engine, some other titles that are done with that engine. Race 07 by Simmons. Simmons' whole base is got that engine, and I'm assuming Race Room is even on that engine.
Yeah.
Arca Sim Racing, the Turissimo Cartera guys. So this engine has got a lot of legs and has been around for a long time.
Well, it's such a great platform for great modders to turn into a whole series like this one.
Yep. Yeah, and that's Arca Sim Racing. Those guys did the same thing. You know, they basically started as modders, transitioned into getting the license for a particular series, and that's exactly what Reiza's done.
Now, a little history on the series. King Truck are the overall promoters of the Brazilian Formula Truck, and in 1996, the first championship took place with defined rules, and it had 13 trucks on the grid. We're talking race trucks here.
Race semi-trucks.
Yeah, no trailers.
Yeah, and no NASCAR trucks. These are like, these are the biggest racing trucks there are. This title, Formula Truck, is going to feature the trucks that competed in the 2012 season and all 10 tracks that they raced on their calendar. Like we said, they're semis without the trailers. They weigh 5 tons, have 1,200 horsepower turbocharged diesel engines that have some major torque.
Yeah, they do. You've got a lot of the main manufacturers such as VW, Mercedes-Benz, Iveco, Scania, Ford, and Volvo. And the series races mostly, well, entirely in South America, mostly in Brazil, and they even do one in Argentina.
That's right. That's right. And they even race at Interlagos, which is an F1 track. So
yeah.
Imagine seeing those big trucks lumbering around Interlagos.
Well, I was watching you try to turn that first corner in, which is so difficult in a good car, let alone a 5-ton truck.
Yeah. yeah. So this title's due out at the end of this month in March, and it's going to go for $24.90. It's going to be available for download, and you can check it out at reizastudios.com. And based on what we've seen so far, I'd say we're going to recommend it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we already have had enough fun to recommend it.
Yep. And just so you know, this is a preview. We are not doing a full review here because there's still a little, some bugs that they needed to work out. Everything was running overall really well with it for us. But so yeah, this is just going to be a first look. We're going to go over some of our sections, some of the areas that we usually do our reviews in, and then wrap it up. We're not going to rate it yet, and I think that's going to take us to a commercial break.
Yeah, and then come back and have some of our final thoughts on the title.
Yep. Well, some thoughts on different areas, and then some final thoughts. So when we come back, we'll tell you all about it.
Welcome back to our first look of Formula Truck by Reiza Studios, and we're going to kind of just get right through the categories as if it was a review.
Yep.
And that starts things off with graphics today. And, right off the bat, this is an R Factor sim-based game, so all of the color saturations and clarity goes back to that core right there.
Yeah, and I think that originated in like 2004. So this is like pretty much a 10-year-old, actually even further than that, because this engine goes way back before R Factor 1. And so you see the dated, but it still looks great.
Well, and the good and bad of that, the good side is it's very playable.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. High frame rates, triple screens. So very nicely done. And actually, I would say a step up compared to what most R Factor is. Great, nice textures. The truck models are just insane.
Yeah.
Lots of detail, lots of different dashes to choose from. So very nicely done considering it's on a 10-year-old graphics engine.
Absolutely.
Next up, physics. You don't get any better physics than what comes from Renato and Niels Husingfeld. These guys are the masters, in my opinion, of that platform, and it definitely shines through in this title.
Yeah, I mean, just think of how awkward it would be to drive a racing semi-truck, and when you're behind the wheel, it feels that way. I mean, that crossed up under braking, it's like you got all that weight forward and nothing back. It's going to be a little funky, and it was just right in how it drove, funky.
One of my favorite parts of the physics is you're in third gear. First gear and second gear are like equal. Did you notice that?
Yeah, you're
yeah. But third gear, that's when the thing really starts pulling, and you could be coming out of corners in third gear where you're thinking you're going to get traction. No. Not with 1,200 horsepower and like probably more foot-pounds of torque. The semi just comes around because you got no weight on those back tires.
No.
So you really got to pedal it, and that's going to lead us to sounds.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely related, sounds and physics, and the tire sounds. They really make you feel like you got some big old tires, just like.
And it's that distinct sound that a truck makes. If you've ever been on a freeway and heard a truck lock them up, it sounds different than a car locking it up.
Yes.
And it's perfect. I mean, I love that sound. And even the diesel noise.
The air brakes too.
Oh, yeah.
You're on the grid, you hear all the truck going into the corners. Just really nicely done sounds.
Absolutely.
So, very impressed.
You mentioned earlier the models. These guys are just incredible at the modeling. And imagine a Formula One truck with all the wings like a Formula One car, but this is a semi-truck, a little drop to the ground. Beautiful models. Yeah.
Things are slammed. We booted it up yesterday. It's like, those don't even look like trucks.
No, they don't.
No, those are race trucks. Now, I don't think any of these trucks ever hauled anything.
Right.
I think they just went straight to the fabrication.
Like a NASCAR ever saw a license plate and being on a street.
Right. Like a NASCAR's a real truck. Well, I got a feeling these are actual real trucks that are just completely modified.
But like you said, they never saw a day of usage as a truck.
Yep.
The other thing, and we mentioned all the different trucks to look at. So I mean, when you're out there, you can distinctly tell the difference between the VW, the Volkswagen, the Mercedes, and so on.
And like in Euro Truck, we didn't have any of the nose trucks. There's some nose trucks in this in the sim. So really nicely done on the models, both interior and exterior. Watching the replays are just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Next up, tracks. 10 tracks. I think. And you guys can correct us if we're wrong, and sorry we didn't do enough research on it. This is just a preview. We wanted to get it out before the title was released, but I think all very similar tracks to what's in Game Stock Car, or even the same tracks that are in Game Stock Car. But definitely some changes. I think Interlagos, the layout might have changed. Either that or it's just so different driving in that big old truck.
You're a little higher up in the air.
Yeah, and maybe they made, I don't know if they made some adjustments, but they just look phenomenal. Lots of life in the tracks. It's almost like they feel like they're laser scanned. You know, and actually, let's take that to force feedback in controls. This is an area where this engine is definitely showing its date.
Right.
And I can only do 3 different controls mapped. So I had T500 wheel, Club Sport pedals, and then I had my shifter mounted, which I don't even have running right now. But I had to unplug my button boxes.
Right.
So controls are a little lacking, and that's just because of that. I think you can only do 3 controls in R Factor, maybe 4. I'm not sure, but I couldn't get them working. But force feedback uses Real Feel, which, if you're not familiar, Real Feel is a mod that came out for R Factor that really makes the force feedback.
But it's built in.
You don't have to tweak anything. You just adjust your stuff in game. and just feels awesome. I'm running 1080 degrees of rotation on the T500, and just to get things to feel right, I've got the steering ratio up to 33 degrees, and I think I upped the sensitivity on the wheel to 100 to make it feel good. But
okay,
great, yeah, nicely done.
Nicely done.
Force feedback, don't you agree? Force feedback feels really good.
Oh yeah, it feels really good. And again, you mentioned how you get sideways out of those corners. You're driving it. You're throttle steering and working it, and you know you're sideways, and you're just kind of working with that force feedback and bringing it back.
That being said, too, that you just reminded me, I'd say it's got some of the best feel of any sim we've driven, and the ability to catch a slide.
Yeah.
Because I was catching stuff that I thought I was going to go around for sure, and I was able to just. We've got some footage of us driving last night that we were just working the wheel and keeping that thing on the track. Yeah, and that classic feeling of you're crossed up and you're on the brake, it's not doing anything, and the moment you release the brake, you get the steering just like you'd want. Yep. So, very cool. All right, just a couple more categories, then we're going to wrap it up. Let's move into damage, which at this point, you know that's one of my favorite categories, and you were well rewarded in this game with damage because you're talking parts of flying and severe damage that you will feel in the truck's behavior. We can go back to sounds a little bit, because when you're banging trucks, man, it's making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And you would imagine that with these 5-ton trucks banging fenders. And
I ran out of gas and got hit by a couple behind, and the collision noise was so intense and awesome. It sounded, it made the game for me.
But yeah, the damage is definitely well done. And we haven't got too deep into it, and we will for our review, but it definitely, like Sean said, parts of flying and all sorts of cool stuff, which takes us, we're talking banging fenders, to AI. This AI was very impressive.
Yeah.
You know, they were battling us hard. There was one point where I came out of the last corner at Interlagos, and I knew a guy was there. And I'm thinking, he's gonna hit me in any second. He got within inches. And I knew he was there, and I held my line, and he stayed right there, and then I ended up outrunning him down the straight, but nicely done on the AI.
I agree, and the other thing I like is when they have somebody inside, they struggle, but once they get singled out, they pick up some speed. So, I mean, they even have the same race pace that we would have, and we mentioned the getting sideways. They get sideways out of the corners too, so, and they'll slow up and they'll recover. And
oh yeah, I saw them getting all dicey out of the corners, and they'll wreck. And the last thing about AI, we're only running at 100%.
Right.
And you can bump it up to like 125.
Right.
And we were just out of the gate, no adjustments to the truck. You and I were able to run faster than pretty much the whole field. Because we started at the back, and both of us were able to get to the front. Actually, I was able to pass like 10 trucks going into turn 1, but I only had their aggression at like 60% and the overall AI at 100, so still lots of room for AI. You know what else we haven't tried yet? Imagine, and we'll talk about fun factor and multiplayer at the same time. Imagine how much fun this title is going to be multiplayer.
I knew that's where you're going, and yeah, that would be a tremendous amount of fun, and a big group of real life drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be cool.
So that takes us to fun factor, which is our last subject, and then we're going to wrap this up. And if you can't tell, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, a couple smiles on our faces. I think you've heard it in our tones of voices. We have had fun with this title, and I think that says it all right there.
And we're going to continue to have fun. Again, once we try multiplayer, get a little bit more in depth, try all the tracks. Reiza, you guys have done it again. You guys have really taken that engine to its max, in my opinion. You know, from the great frame rates, the physics, sounds. I mean, I just don't think it gets much better for this, you know, for this engine.
I completely agree, and this is one of those ones that, for a variety of reasons, I would want in my list of games or sims.
Oh, for sure.
You know, just the diversity, the fun factor,
and you'll be able to play offline too. You know, you can race against some solid AI.
Yeah.
And I had a blast racing against the AI last night.
Well, and I love trucks, so I mean the noises, So
that's going to wrap up our first look at the Reiza Formula Truck Simulator, and if you're interested in checking it out for yourself, again, it's going to be available at the end of March. Go to reizastudios.com. It's going to go for $24.90, and again, we highly recommend it just in this first look. And anything else before we go?
No, it's just that's pretty inexpensive too, so that adds to it.
Yep, definitely worth the price of admission. Visit us at our website, isrtv.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us here on YouTube. Hopefully you've enjoyed our first look at Reiza Formula Truck Simulator. Again, we're going to have a full review coming probably, I guess, sometime in April or so. So hopefully you've enjoyed this first look. For Sean Cole, I'm Darren Ganji. we'll see you in some trucks.
Oh, no.